Hello everyone, welcome to this video. This is my 2019 Azerbaijan GP review. Well, it was a decent race, but it didn't quite live up to the Baku standard of the last 2 years. I personally had low expectations for this race, but after the chaos of practice and qualifying, I too jumped onto the Baku hype train, but I was kind of disappointed by the race. It wasn't as crazy or chaotic as everyone was expecting, but it can't be great every single time in F1. So I'm going to talk about how all 10 of the teams and 20 of the drivers did during the race, so enjoy. And remember, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel, Kids Love F1, and you can also follow me on Twitter, which I will put in the description. And let's start off with none other than Mercedes and Valtteri Bottas. And the Silver Arrows took their fourth 1-2 finish of the season. Who would have expected this? It's officially the most successful start in F1 history. And I didn't at all expect Mercedes to lock out the front row in qualifying. Ferrari looked faster for the entire weekend leading up to that, but after Charles Leclerc crashed at turn 8, kind of throwing it away, qualifying got delayed, and obviously Mercedes looked better in the cooler conditions and were able to lock out the front row, with Lewis Hamilton second and Valtteri Bottas taking pole. And Lewis Hamilton actually got a slightly better start, but Bottas this time got his elbows out and defended very well. Like I tweeted during the race, the old Bottas would have let Hamilton through, but not this time. Bottas got his elbows out and defended cleanly and fairly, keeping the lead for the entire race. Hamilton did catch up at the end and got within DRS range with a few laps to go, but he was never really close enough to make a move, and Bottas was able to hold on for his second win of the season. And this is actually the first time that the pole sitter has won this season, so that streak of the person being on pole not winning kind of came to an end this time. But with every race that Bottas performs strongly, it's looking more and more likely that Bottas is a legitimate title contender. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he can keep this form up for the rest of the season. And next up, we have Ferrari, who finished third with Sebastian Vettel and fifth with Charles Leclerc. And Ferrari have threw it away yet again. Yes, Mercedes were hiding their true pace, as usual, but Ferrari had a slightly quicker car for the whole weekend. I think the race result would have been very different had Leclerc not crashed in qualifying. That's what really changed the dynamic of the entire race weekend. Instead of it being a potential Ferrari front row lockout, it was instead a Mercedes front row lockout. And not only that, I just want to know what on earth Ferrari did with Leclerc's strategy. At first, it was looking good. He was starting in, I believe, 8th place with the new mediums, and he was looking great during the first part of the race. He had really good pace, his mediums were lasting, and he was about to pass his teammate Vettel before Ferrari pitted him. And this was all going well, and Ferrari wanted to stretch out Leclerc's tires so he could have a later race charge. But the problem is they left him way too late, and from lap 31 to lap 35, he got passed by the leaders and just lost huge amounts of time. And by the time he actually pitted, he just literally had no pace left and couldn't catch Verstappen, and he ended up finishing in a lonely 5th. And this is just not good enough. Ferrari have had too many chances, but they keep screwing up the strategy. At some point, Mercedes is just going to run away with this thing if Ferrari doesn't get their act together. And Sebastian Vettel, he didn't really make too many mistakes this weekend. He wasn't really crashing, but he just wasn't quick enough, and that's the end of the story. He needs to get his act together because in almost all of the races, Leclerc has been the faster driver. And if this continues, I wouldn't be surprised if they make Leclerc Ferrari number 1 and Sebastian is number 2. So if he doesn't get any quicker, then something needs to change. But I think the only crumb of comfort for Ferrari is that I think that the real season starts in Spain. That's when everyone gets their big engine upgrades. But I'm going to say it now. If Mercedes dominate like they have for the first few races in Spain and Monaco, I think they're going to run away with this thing, and Ferrari's title hopes will be over. Red Bull's Max Verstappen had yet another solid race, finishing in 4th. I don't think he was ultimately quick enough to challenge for a podium, and his podium hopes were pretty much derailed when he's passed by Sergio Perez at the start. But overall, it was yet another solid race, and it just shows that he's getting more and more mature, more experienced, and he needs to continue more of these drives. His teammate Pierre Gasly had an unfortunate DNF, and I think this was actually his best race weekend of the entire year. He had to start from the pit lane and was running in a solid 6th until he lost power and had to retire. But overall, Red Bull had a good weekend. This wasn't their best track, but the Honda engine looks better and they seem to have more straight line speed, so that's a positive going forward. Racing Point had an excellent race with Perez finishing in P6. Azerbaijan seems to be one of his really good tracks, and although he didn't get a podium this year, P6 was probably the best he could hope for. He was running as high as 4th place when he passed Verstappen at the start, but he ultimately never had the pace to hold that 4th position. But overall, it was a solid race and really got some solid points that will get him back in the contention for the best of the rest battle. And even more surprisingly, his teammate Lance Stroll finished 9th after starting 16th. After a very disappointing qualifying, the young Canadian got quite a lot of stick from F1 fans. But he more than made up for it in the race, somehow finishing in the points. And again, Lance Stroll proved that qualifying is not his forte, but he's damn good on a Sunday. He really showed his race pace and how good of a racer he is. But going forward, if Stroll can go from being a below average qualifier to maybe an average or slightly above average qualifier, and he can continue to be really good in the races, then he's certainly going to be a lot closer to Perez by the end of the season. But overall, it was a really good result for the struggling Racing Point, and they need to build on this to gain more momentum. McLaren had another impressive race, with Carlos Sainz getting his first points of the year in 7th, and rookie Lando Norris continuing his impressive form, finishing in 8th. I think this 7th place was much needed for Carlos Sainz. He's had a really difficult start to the season, and I think the 7th place will give him a really big boost and will really help his confidence. And the 8th place for Lando Norris is good. Really, he's just continuing his excellent rookie form that he's had this season. And this strong result shows that China just didn't really suit their car. It was an off track for them. But McLaren were back this race, and it shows that they're legitimate contenders for the best of the rest battle. So overall, it was a good race with solid points, and they're actually now 4th in the Constructors' Championship. So well done to them. Let's see if they can keep it up. Alfa Romeo had a solid damage limitation race, with Kimi Räikkönen finishing in 10th and Antonio Giovinazzi finishing in 12th. Unfortunately for them, both cars had to start from the pit lane because Giovinazzi had a penalty, and Kimi Räikkönen was actually disqualified from qualifying because I think of some issue with his front wing. So I think that 10 and 12 for them was pretty good considering how far back they started for. So if they had started in the top 10, they probably would have finished in the points. So at least they had a decent pace, and let's see what they can do in Spain. The Toro Rosso guys certainly had a weekend to forget, with Alexander Albon finishing in 11th and Danny Kvyat having a DNF after being hit by a reversing Daniel Ricciardo. The guys actually looked pretty quick on Friday and Saturday, but I think they just sort of faded in the race, and unfortunately for them, neither car finished in the points. But they did look pretty fast on the straights, like Red Bull, because of the improvements that Honda have made for their engine. So that's a positive going forward, and both drivers need to keep their performances up and just try and impress the team in the future. Haas have continued their run of inconsistent performances, and now I just really never know what to expect with this team. One weekend, they're way ahead of the midfield. Another weekend like this, they're absolutely nowhere. I mean, Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean didn't even come close to finishing in the points, and if they want to win this best of the rest battle, they will need to limit off weekends like this. I said it in my predictions that they're going to be inconsistent, and that's what's been happening during the season. They have the pace, but it's just a case of maintaining it and not making mistakes in the race and just limiting off weekends. I think we can be expecting a lot of swearing from Gunther Steiner during the debrief, I guess. Oh my gosh, where were Renault? They were by far the most disappointing team of the weekend. They were absolutely nowhere. Nico Hulkenberg for the entire weekend, he looked like he didn't want to be there. I've never seen Ricciardo smile so little during a race. I mean, absolutely off the pace completely, I guess. Ricciardo wasn't even that good during the race. He tried to go for a dive bomb on Danny Kvyat, and after failing to overtake him, they both ended up in the wall, and Ricciardo tried to reverse select reverse gear and actually hit Daniel Kvyat. So for once, the torpedo got torpedoed. But Renault need to be much better than this. As a works team, they can't be outperformed by customer teams like McLaren who have the same engine. And obviously this was an abnormally bad weekend. This isn't representative of how good Renault is, but I just think they've been a bit disappointing. I thought they'd be just maybe a bit closer to Red Bull than they were last season, but if they want to achieve their goals, if they want to achieve their targets that they set at the start of the season, they're going to have to make huge strides in the next races. Not only the drivers will have to be better, the team in general will have to be better, and of course their car is going to have to be better. A lot of work to do there at Renault. And finally, we have Williams, who actually finished up in 15th and 60th. Okay. Only 16 cars finished the race. So, Williams were last and second last and usual, and just nothing at all has changed about this team. They're still miles off the pace, and the only time I saw them was when George Russell was being lapped by the leaders for the second time, and yeah, that's about it. Nothing much else to say about them. All I gotta say, though, is that Robert Kubica needs to be better than this. The young rookie George Russell has had his number the entire season, and Kubica really needs to step up his game, otherwise his seat might be under a bit of jeopardy later in the season. Well, that's going to do it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As for the race, it was a decent one, but it was a bit boring compared to the last two we've had in Baku. Overall, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. It was way better than China, but unfortunately we didn't get the crazy and chaotic race everyone was hoping for. But that's the end of the video, and if you could, please like and subscribe to my channel, Kids Love F1. Also, please try and follow me on Twitter, which I will have in the description. And my driver of the day has to be Valtteri Bottas. He was just really solid for the whole race, and it was just another statement performance from the Finnish driver. For some reason, Charles Leclerc got it. I have no clue why. But yeah, we're gonna end off the video with that. As always, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and leave what you thought about the race in the comment section below, as well as maybe some video suggestions or predictions that you have for the next race. But as always, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Bye.